The CONCACAF Champions Cup is the most prestigious footballing competition in North America, won by only the best teams on the continent. I've been challenged to win the competition by kit manufacturer Sangalo with one of their teams. This is Academy Eagles FC, the 7-time champions of the Turks and Caicos Islands. But they are one of the smallest countries in the world, which means Academy Eagles are one of the smallest teams in the world. So they've never played in the Champions Cup, let alone win it before. And that is because the path to reaching the CONCACAF Champions Cup for this team is incredibly difficult. First, we need to win the Provo Premier League, which gets us into the Caribbean Shield. Then we need to reach the final of the Caribbean Shield, which gets us a spot in the Caribbean Cup. We then have to finish in the top 3 of the Caribbean Cup to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and then we just need to breeze past all the Liga MX and MLS clubs to be crowned champions of North America and complete the challenge. There are so many hoops to jump through, this challenge is almost impossible. There's 5 teams in the Provo Premier League who we play twice, although in real life it's now up to 7 clubs. We're expected to have a tight fight with SWA Sharks for the title in Season 1. Jean Innocent is our biggest threat, and we're expecting the striker to be the difference maker for us this season. Alongside him, we're going to play 17-year-old Emmanuel Martin, who is seen as the wonder kid of the team. To keep things simple, I'm going back to basics with a 4-4-2 that should see us win a majority of our matches. However, on the opening day of the season, we went 1-0 down to Teachers FC. Luckily, we did manage to fight back and score either side of half time, but we did have to rely on a penalty to get in front. And after all of that, we were pegged back anyway and drew the match 2-2, which doesn't seem too bad until you realise that they beat Teachers 7-0 and 14-0 in real life. Thankfully, Jean Innocent made sure we won plenty of games as he scored twice past Flamingo FC in a 6-2 win, helped us beat Blue Hills 4-0, and even got us a goal as we beat SWA Sharks 3-1. So after playing each team home and away, we're crowned champions as we finish 8 points ahead of Blue Hills. Except, we aren't champions yet. Like a lot of leagues in the Americas, there's an opening stage and a closing stage of the season, and the winner of both stages play each other at the end of the season to find out the ultimate champion. So we got going in the closing phase of the season, and this time it was youngster Emmanuel Martin who was bagging the goals. He scored the opening goal in a 4-0 win over Teachers, and then got the winner in a 2-1 victory against Blue Hills. He also scored in a 4-1 win over SWA Sharks, before scoring in the 93rd minute on the final day of the season against Flamingo, which means he can say he's scored past every opponent this season. In fact, we won all 8 of our games, meaning we win both the opening and closing stage of the season, so we don't have to take part in a championship match, and we qualify for the Caribbean Shield, the next competition we need to win on our way to winning the Champions Cup. Big thanks to Sangalo for sending me over this Academy Eagles jersey. Sangalo are a really cool company who partner with some of the most exciting and unique clubs from around the world. They design and manufacture their kits and put them on sale for us shirt collectors to buy. This Academy Eagle away shirt has such a cool design to it, with the pattern taking inspiration from the coat of arms on the island. But I think I love the home shirt even more. The yellow eagle in attack mode is so cool. What other team has a jersey as nice as this? By partnering with Sangalo, the clubs now can generate extra revenue by selling their jerseys worldwide to us shirt collectors to help them realise their goals. For example, in real life, Academy Eagles are really trying to become the very best team in the Turks and Caicos Islands and become a dominant force across the Caribbean. I mean, they are already the 7-time champions of the Turks and Caicos Islands, so they're doing pretty well there already. They're not the only side Sangalo work with though, there are so many amazing teams on their website. So head to sangalo.com via the link in the top line of the description, or scan the QR code on screen to help out an incredible team and find your new favourite jersey. The Caribbean Cup is going to be a huge step up in quality for us, so we need to strengthen the team dramatically over summer. Because the team isn't world class just yet, our youth intake will actually give us some very decent squad players to use right away. Kane Lavelle is a pretty handy striker and could be good backup, whilst Kevin Furlong gives us options on the left-hand side of the attack. And we're going to have to rely on these two in the Caribbean Cup. That's because our summer signings can't join until August 29th, when our transfer window opens, and the entire Caribbean Shield tournament takes place in July. We've been drawn against Racing Club Aruba in the preliminary round. There's actually a really cool reason behind the tournament all being played in July. Because it would get so expensive for these teams to always be travelling from island to island to play games in the Caribbean Shield, instead, one island hosts the tournament every summer, and all the teams come together to play the matches over a couple of weeks. So we took to the pitch in Curacao, and Emmanuel Martin gave us the lead 10 minutes in. We doubled our lead from a well-worked set piece, and then added a third goal just before the halftime whistle. Wrestling Club Aruba got a consolation goal late on, but we emerge as 3-1 winners. So we move on to play Morvant Caledonia United from Trinidad and Tobago, but the game didn't quite go to plan, as by the time we got to the halftime break, we were 3-0 down and looking at a defeat. We got a goal back late on when their defender scored an own goal, but a 3-1 loss means we've been knocked out. The only way we can get to the Caribbean Cup is by reaching the final of the Caribbean Shield. So that's it for our continental run this season. We now have to start the process all over again by winning the Provo Premier League. Because of our small scouting network, we only signed 3 players, but 2 of them could be stars for us. David Zafir is an 18-year-old left-footed centre-back who we've picked up from Flamingo, and Theo Edwards is a 17-year-old goalkeeper who was previously at Blue Hills and will start the season for us. They helped us to keep clean sheets in 4 of our 8 games in the opening stage of the season, whilst our attackers did the business at the other end. Jean Innocent and Emmanuel Martin were the leading lights, but Kevin Furlong and Kane Lavelle from the academy did chip in with a couple of goals, showing they will be valuable for us. Once again, we walk the opening stage of the league. The second half of the season was much the same, although we only kept 2 clean sheets and had a few close shaves. We only beat Flamingo and Teachers 5-3, and if it wasn't for a couple of late goals in both games, it could have been a different story. Another 8 games won mean we win both stages of the season and are crowned champions to make it back to the Caribbean Shield. In the preliminary rounds, we've been drawn against Association Sportive Le Gossier from Guadeloupe. Now the goals as they're being shown to you make it look like a pretty run-of-the-mill game. Jean Innocent gives us the lead, and we then make it 2-0 in the second half. Gossier then causes some issues by pulling a goal back, but ultimately we prevail by taking home a third. However, 3 of those goals came in stoppage time in the 90th minute. It really was a hectic match. In the round of 16, we're up against another club from Trinidad and Tobago, Athletic Club Port of Spain. But just like last season, they were simply better than us. They didn't break a sweat as they beat us 3-0, although we didn't help ourselves with a red card 16 minutes in. So again, it's another short-lived adventure in the Caribbean Shield. This season we had more scouting budget to travel the Caribbean, so we welcome 5 new faces to the team. Kian Thomas is the best of the bunch. The Dominican international plays as an attacking midfielder through the middle, whereas Varincati is a right winger with 18 caps at Anguilla, and the 2 of them are the reason we're changing formation. We're now in a 4-2-3-1, as I think this will help us perform better in the Caribbean Shield. It certainly helped us in the opening stage of the league, as we had our most dominant performance yet. Emmanuel Martin started as our lone striker, and he scored 8 goals in 8 games. New boy Kian Thomas scored 7 and 8, and I'm in the process of training academy striker Kane Lavelle to be a left-sided inside forward, so we don't miss out on his 13 finishing and 11 composure. With a plus 27 goal difference, we top the opening stage table. However, in the closing stage, we actually lost twice. SWA Sharks beat us 3-1 at home, and then we lost 1-0 away at Teachers, who scored with their only shot on target. We still top the table and win the title, but it does suggest this new tactic does have some weaknesses. Heading into Season 4, we've had another great youth intake, but the best player, Jamie Dempsey, is once again a striker. If we could have some other positions, that would be quite nice. This season, we're up against Western Warriors from the Bahamas, and we had our biggest Caribbean Shield win yet. Right winger Carty opened up the scoring, but the Warriors pulled one back after our keeper Edwards spilled a corner. But after that, we were unstoppable, as we scored 4 more times before the halftime break, and then got a final goal in the second half to win 6-1 and progress to the round of 16. Here we're up against Etaly Matauri from French Guiana. Luckily for us, just 4 minutes in, Emmanuel Martin was brought down in the area, and we were given a penalty, which midfielder Christopher Louis slotted away. Then Emmanuel Martin got his name on the score sheet with a great effort from distance. In the second half, our opponent's well-worked corner routine confused us as they got a goal back. but we asserted our dominance and scored a screamer late on to steal a 3-1 victory. So for the first time ever, we're in the quarterfinals, but we're up against Athletic Porto Spain, who beat us last season and went on to win the whole tournament. But this time, we took the lead 13 minutes in. However, Porto Spain equalised later in the first half. We took the lead again in the 60th minute with a great shot from distance, only to be pegged back again in the 87th minute, taking the game to penalties. And here, Jean Innocent, Derek Ferguson and Sergio Paredes all couldn't score, and we lose 3-1 in the shootout. But this does show the 4-2-3-1 is working, and with a little bit more luck, we maybe could have made it all the way to the final. So we signed another 5 players to strengthen the squad again for our next run. The signings are defensively focused, with Marlon Phillips being our top signing to fit in at centre back. But Ramses Menea is going to start on the right wing, as he's better technically than Varinkati. But the season didn't start well, as we lost to Flamingo 2-1, as they scored 2 penalties, and then we drew 1-1 with Teachers, who seemed to be our bogey team. But we won our other 6 games to once again top the opening stage table, and we were more convincing in the closing stage of the season, with new boy Menea finding the back of the net on 4 occasions, meaning we once again top the table and make it back to the Caribbean Shield. We've been drawn against new vibes from the US Virgin Islands. We made light work of the competition's first timers by beating them 6-0. Next up was Sualiga from Saint Martin, and we played even better in that match by thrashing them 9-1 with 8 different players scoring goals on our way to victory. So in the quarterfinals, we're up against Santiago de Cuba, and left winger Kevin Furlong scored our opening goal. He then got the assist for Emmanuel Martin late on, as we win 2-1 to make the semi-finals. This is the furthest we've ever been in the Caribbean Shield, and if we can beat Robin Hood from Suriname, we will get a place in the Caribbean Cup. Attacking midfielder Kian Thomas scored just 50 seconds into the game to give us an early lead, and he struck again with a terrific shot from distance. But 2019 champions Robin Hood are good, and they didn't let the 2-goal deficit get to them, keeping composed and pulling one back. But then an insane free kick meant Kian Thomas scored his hat-trick. Robin Hood kept pushing us in the second half and again caused us issues by scoring a second goal. But we fought back and got another goal in the 89th minute to win 4-2, make the final and qualify for the Caribbean Cup. But some silverware would be nice. So hopefully we're going to beat Grenades from Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean Shield Cup final. 5 minutes in, we had a corner, which we sent to the far post, only for the woodwork to deny us the opening goal of the game. Instead, at the other end, we were far too relaxed in defence, allowing Grenades way too much space in the penalty area, resulting in a goal. But we got ourselves back in front. A near post corner was met by the head of right back Gideon, who beat the keeper. So at the break, there is nothing to choose between the two sides. But in the second half, Grenades couldn't get the ball away from their defensive third, giving the ball away to us, allowing Kian Thomas to feed Kane Lavelle, who gave us the lead. Just 10 minutes later, Grenades fell into the same trap, as we overloaded the middle of the pitch. Emmanuel Martin's shot came back off the post, but it allowed Varinkati to follow up and score a tap-in. At which point, Grenades hit the self-destruct button, because with 7 minutes to go, we scored a 4th goal, and less than 60 seconds later, we found a low cross to Emmanuel Martin, who made it 5-1. And then just 60 seconds later, from that, Emmanuel Martin was put through on goal again, and he scored his 2nd of the game, meaning we lift the Caribbean Shield and move one step closer to winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And we don't have to wait long to play in the Caribbean Cup, as this is held from September through to December. 10 teams compete. 2 clubs from the top 4 Caribbean leagues make it, plus the 2 finalists from the Caribbean Shield, all play in a group stage, with the top 2 teams heading to the semi-finals. At least, that is what usually happens. For some reason this season, it's us, Grenades, and 8 teams from Suriname. I don't know what's happened, it must be some weird bug. But this might be good for us, because there's no way all teams from Suriname are better than us. And as it transpired, we were actually better than all of them, as we won all 4 of our group stage games without conceding a single goal. Grenades also won all of their games in their group, so we could end up playing them in another final. So in the semi-finals, just like in the Caribbean Shield, we played Robin Hood, and over 2 legs, we beat them 8-5 on aggregate to reach the final, and in the process, qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup way ahead of schedule. But before we enter that competition, we once again play Grenades in the final, and in the first leg, we come away with a narrow 1-0 victory. But our opponent scored first in the second leg to level up the aggregate scores. Luckily for us, less than 60 seconds later, we pulled a goal back ourselves to retake the lead. But Grenades don't want to lose another cup final to us, and they scored from a corner, only for Julio Hernandez to head us back in front on the stroke of half time. Grenades then blew themselves up when they gave away a penalty an hour in, which went on to score, only for us to do the same thing 15 minutes later, and Grenades scored. But that was the last goal of the game, as we win 4-3 on aggregate and claim the Caribbean Cup for Academy Eagles. The issue is, the Champions Cup is now going to be so much harder to win, because we've got to play teams from Mexico and the USA, and when we inevitably get knocked out of that, we have to restart this whole process again. Because we won the Caribbean Cup, we go straight to the round of 16 to play Inter Miami, where they thrashed us in the first leg by scoring 5 goals past us with ease. But we did manage to draw the second leg 1-1 in Miami. The issue is, the damage had already been done, and we're dumped out of the competition. But we can try again next season, after we dominated the Provo Premier League, winning another title. In Season 6, we recruited players from the wider CONCACAF region who can join us before the transfer window opens. So heading into the Caribbean Shield, we signed Jesus Moreno to play on the left wing and Enrique Johnson on the right wing from Dominican Republic and Costa Rica respectively. Jesus Moreno scored a brace on his debut as we beat Docks United from Anguilla 8-0 in the Caribbean Shield preliminary round. Enrique Johnson then got his goal as we beat Hurricanes from Granada in the round of 16. We got revenge on Athletic Port of Spain for beating us twice previously, by stuffing them 4-0 in the quarterfinals, before then thrashing Zebras from Bermuda 8-1 in the semi-finals. This set up a final against Harbourview from Jamaica, who we absolutely battered 5-1 to claim a second Caribbean Shield. The Caribbean Cup will be more difficult though, as this season it's fixed itself and we have a mix of teams from a mix of countries. We did win our first game of the group 4-1 against Inter Mongotapo from Suriname. We then just beat Real Hope from Haiti 3-2 to pick up another 3 points on our journey towards the knockouts. But then Jamaican side Cavalier FC beat us 1-0, and then we lost to Mount Pleasant, also from Jamaica 4-2, which had dire consequences for us. We finished the season with the same record, both scoring 9 and conceding 8, so because they beat us, they finish above us and knock us out. So really, this does suggest that last season was a fluke, and we need to work harder to improve and make the CONCACAF Champions Cup again. I did hear a rumour that if everyone who's watching this video subscribes, every single player gets a +1 in their attributes. So if you want to help the team out, it would be amazing if you could subscribe right now. We did set an in-game record for the most amount of goals scored in a Provo Premier League season, as we've scored 80 times on our way to another title. Our star signing for Season 7 is Dion Brunswick, as we finally upgrade on Emmanuel Martin at striker. But something weird has happened. For some reason, we haven't entered the Caribbean Shield. My theory is that in-game there are 31 nations that are eligible for the Caribbean Shield, but only 30 can enter for the maths to work. So I guess we were randomly selected this season to miss out on the competition, which is really annoying. So after Dion Brunswick scored 21 league goals in order for us to win another league title, would my theory be proved right and we make it back to the Caribbean Shield? The short answer is no, because for some reason, teachers were selected to take part in the Shield over us. But it turns out, there is a very good reason for that. Thanks to our good work, Turks and Caicos are now a top 4 league in the Caribbean, so us and SWA Sharks automatically qualify for the Caribbean Cup instead. Going forward, this is going to make life so much easier for us. So we prepared by making 5 signings. We're only allowed to sign players from the CONCACAF region, so it's a big moment for us as we sign our first United States of American player, Eric Dunas. But our best signing is Costa Rican Mauricio Camacho, who is going to terrorise the right wing. And we also now have enough money to start improving our training facilities to make our players even better. Everything is looking really good for us right now. We beat Morvant Caledonia United 8-0. With Dion Brunswick scoring a hat-trick. Then he scored another hat-trick as we beat Real Rincon from Bonaire 6-0 in our second game. He only managed 1 goal as we beat SWA Sharks 7-0 and he didn't even score past Cavalier FC. But instead, Enrique Johnson scored twice as we won 3-0. We top our group and will play TLH Rangers in the semis. We took the lead in Trinidad pretty early on and held it all the way up to the 60th minute when Rangers equalised. Then just 3 minutes from full time, they took the lead to win the first leg. But at our place, we took another early lead to level up the aggregate scores. And then we never looked back. We ended up winning 5-0 on the night to head to another Caribbean Cup final and in the process, qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup for the first time since Season 6. We're up against Cavalier FC in the final, but the Jamaicans struck first in the first leg. We equalised on the stroke of half time to draw the match 1-1. In the second leg though, we took the lead with a low powerful effort and then extended the lead thanks to Enrique Johnson. Cavalier struck back, but it wasn't enough. We win 3-2 on aggregate and win our second Caribbean Cup. So we're back in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and we've been drawn against Philadelphia Union in the round of 16. In the first leg in Philly, Union scored 30 seconds into the match, which was only made worse when we gave away a silly penalty, which they went on to score. But in the second half, Dion Brunswick scored a close-range effort to bring us back into the match. We were then awarded a penalty of our own for a late challenge, which we went on to score to draw the game 2-2. Back at our place, we took the lead 30 minutes in with an absolute pile driver, only to undo all of our hard work by giving away another penalty that Philly went on to score. This then gave them some momentum as they scored again to take a 4-3 lead on aggregates. But we fought back and got back on level terms once again, before then taking the lead through Mauricio Camacho in the 66th minute. However, there wasn't going to be a fairy tale victory, as Philadelphia Union scored not once, but twice in the final 10 minutes to break our hearts and beat us 4-3 on the night and 6-5 on aggregates. Maybe we need to have a different formation and tactical style for our Champions Cup games. We are never going to have players that are better than the players in Liga MX or MLS, but we could play smarter than them. After breaking more records in the Provo Premier League, hopefully we're going to get another chance to try in the Champions Cup next season. We signed Honduran striker Marlon Acevedo, who won't have a big part to play in our usual formation, but the pressing forward will be instrumental should we reach the Champions Cup. We battered the first 3 teams we played in the Caribbean Cup. Flamingo also made it from Turks and Caicos this season, but we thrashed them 8-1. We then battered last year's finalists Cavalier FC 6-0, before easing past Central FC from Trinidad as 4-2 winners. But we could only draw 1-1 with Inter Mongotapo. Luckily, we still managed to top the group ahead of Cavalier. Across 2 legs in the semi-final, we batter Robin Hood 11-2. It's actually the 3rd time we've played them in a semi-final, and the 3rd time we beat them. This means we play Cavalier FC in the final for the 2nd season in a row, and for the 2nd time, we beat them, as we thrashed the Jamaicans 7-3 on aggregate. And now I can reveal my secret plan for the Champions Cup. We have to play smarter than the US and Mexican clubs, so a defensively shaped 4-4-2, which then springs forward in possession, might be the way to sneak some 1-0 victories. However, the plan didn't quite work against Inter Miami, who actually beat us 1-0 in a smash and grab. I mean, look at those stats. How have we not got something out of that game? But when Miami came to our place, we did make that system work, as Jesus Moreno scored 20 minutes in to take the game to extra time, where Kian Thomas scored the winner in the 102nd minute. So in the quarterfinals, to progress, we have to beat Atlanta United. And in Atlanta, we went back and forth. They scored just 3 minutes into the game, but we pulled one back 20 minutes later with a low-placed effort. In the second half, a deflection gifted Atlanta a second goal, but we kept fighting and the keeper's poor parry put us back on level terms. We were also very lucky our keeper saved a Ricardo Pepi penalty. The game at our place was going the exact same way. Atlanta scored first, and then we pulled one back 10 minutes later. A huge deflection gifted Atlanta a second just before the halftime whistle, before some poor defending from them allowed us to draw level in the second half. But in the 95th minute, Emmanuel Martin's beautiful low cross found Brunswick, who scored to give us a 5-4 aggregate victory. This 4-4-2 is working perfectly. Until it didn't. We were drawn against Mexican side Club America in the semi-finals, and they wiped the floor with us, beating us 8-4 on aggregate, putting an end to our incredible run. Obviously, we won the league again, so we can try again next season. Over summer, our star signing is Pedro Castro, a left winger who is strong with both feet and can play in deeper and more advanced positions, so he fits our two formations perfectly. However, he failed to score in any of our 4 Caribbean Cup group stage games. Not that it mattered though, once again we won all 4 matches, but it wasn't as easy as it has been, as we only beat Williams Connection and Portmore United by 2-1. As a result, we do progress through the group stage, and now we can batter TLH Rangers in the semi-finals as we won 9-4 on aggregate to make another final, which we also won. Jamaican side Portmore United were no match for us as we won 10-4 on aggregate to make it back to the Champions Cup. Here we've been drawn against Club Leon from Mexico in the round of 16, and we took the lead early on in Mexico. In the second half, they managed to pull one back, but thanks to our Champions Cup formation, we scored twice more later in the game to take a 3-1 lead into the second leg, where we drew 0-0, meaning we make it to the quarterfinals. Here we've got a date with New England Revolution. But the team from Foxborough scored first, just 6 minutes into the game. We equalised not long after to end a pretty boring first half. With 64 minutes on the clock, New England retook the lead, but just 10 minutes after that, Brunswick scored his second of the game. But we just can't contain New England, as 60 seconds later, they made it 3-2, but another 60 seconds after that, we equalised again. The game wasn't done there though. In the 92nd minute, a ball over the top beat our defence, and New England secure a 4-3 victory in the first leg. So with the scores so tight, when we took the lead early in the second leg, we knew we had a chance to make the semi-finals again. However, New England managed to edge themselves in front, scoring in the 19th minute of the game. In the second half, Dion Brunswick scored one of the most outrageous goals I have ever seen in Football Manager to make it 5-all on aggregate, taking the game to extra time, where one clumsy mistake gifted New England a penalty, which they went on to score and win the tie 6-5 on aggregate. So close, yet so far. At least we won another title to have another go next season. In a bid to improve the team, we signed Honduran international Elmar Garcia, who is now hands down the best player at the club. He scored 4 times in the Caribbean Cup group stage, as we scored 25 goals in 4 matches without conceding. I think it is definitive now, we are the best team in the entire Caribbean. Chibao FC were brushed aside in the semi-finals, as the team from the Dominican Republic were powerless to resist us as we beat them 9-3 on aggregate, setting up another final with Cavalier FC. And once again, we beat them. This time 6-0 on aggregate, with star striker Dion Brunswick scoring a hat-trick in the second leg. This now sets us up on our path in the Champions Cup, where we start with Atlanta United, who beat us in the quarterfinals 2 years ago. At our place, Atlanta scored first, as they beat our high line and a low cross found their striker. However, we did manage to draw the match 1-1 after a free kick hit the woodwork and Brunswick tapped in the rebound. So it was all to play for in the second leg, and once again Atlanta took the lead. But not long afterwards, we pulled one back through Acevedo to take the game to penalties. Atlanta missed their first penalty, whilst we scored ours. Both teams then scored their second penalties, before our keeper Romero saved Atlanta's third. The issue is, we also had our third spot kick saved. But Atlanta's striker then tried a Panenka, but our goalkeeper read like a book, which meant Christopher Louis scored his penalty to win us the match and advance to the quarterfinals to take on Santos Laguna from Mexico. At home, we opened up the scoring from a back post corner, but the Mexicans got back into the game with a super strike 5 minutes later. Just before half time though, we were able to sneak ahead with a tidy finish from Acevedo. Our good work was all undone though when Santos Laguna equalised in the second half. Thankfully though, a 92nd minute Acevedo free kick means we win the first leg 3-2. We were expecting a tougher second leg in Mexico, but that didn't happen. Instead, Marlon Acevedo scored twice as the pressing forward, who only ever really plays in the Champions Cup games as we play two strikers there, is really earning his paycheck. So we head back to the semi-finals, where we lost 2 seasons ago, to take on Deportivo Guadalajara. In Mexico, it was Deportivo who struck first, as they scored from a low cross towards the near post. But from an impossibly tight angle, Dion Brunzic was able to level the scores in the 86th minute, meaning it's all to play for in the second leg. And here, we took the lead through the legend that is Marlon Acevedo. And to make sure the result was beyond all doubt, he scored again in the second half to send us to the final. All we have to do now is beat 5-time champions Monterrey. If we can win this game, we win the Champions Cup and complete the challenge. 28 minutes in, we had our first real chance, as we tried to put balls into the middle, but Monterrey were able to clear. However, a high ball to the back post was met by the head of Acevedo, who gave us the lead. Then, 10 minutes later, Monterrey were building out from the back, but a wayward pass was intercepted by Brunswick, who found Acevedo, and his powerful effort doubled our lead. So at the halftime break, we're 2-0 up, and we have one hand on the trophy. A third goal would kill the game, and we were coming forwards within 60 seconds of the restart, but this time the keeper made a decent save from our low effort. Then our goalkeeper had to make an important stop, as if he didn't, Monterrey's free kick would have found the back of the net. So before they do score, we have to increase our buffer. Acevedo does well to keep possession, and he found Boyce, whose cross was met by the header Brunswick, who beat the keeper to make it 3-0. But Monterrey weren't going to give up just like that, and they came forward with a purpose, threading a ball through to the striker, who scored. Luckily for us though, he had strayed just offside, so the goal was ruled out. But a couple of minutes later, they were able to get around the defence and score a curling low effort. Is the comeback on? Well, if it wasn't for our goalkeeper, it could have been. Moments later, a powerful header was pushed off the line by Romero, keeping us 2 goals in front. But we couldn't hold out forever. In the 91st minute, they broke down the right, and a poor tackle gave them the chance they needed to bury a second shot, making it 3-2. With just a few minutes to go until full time, all we have to do is hold on. But Monterrey found so much space on the right to work across. And here, our right back Flores pushed over his man, conceding a penalty. This one kick could be the difference between winning and losing. Romero makes the save! We stay in front, and now we just have to watch the clock tick down until the referee blows his whistle, and in the most dramatic of fashions, we've won the Champions Cup, completing the challenge set to us by Sangalo. Remember to visit their website, linked down in the description, to get your own Academy Eagles jersey. Subscribe for more videos just like this, and then go ahead and watch this one. I got 25 of my subscribers and put them in one team, and I used a random number generator to generate all of their attributes. Then I simulated into the future to find out if this team could win a Premier League title, and the results are incredibly surprising. To give it a watch, click the thumbnail on screen right now, and maybe, you never know, you could be involved in another video in the future.